Tried quite a few travel palettes over the past couple of years, some brilliant, some a little bit frustrating, and one that I actually pulled out of a collaboration with. So I thought I'd take a couple of them out sketching and just compare them out on location. I'm focusing purely on the design and usability here, not the paints. Obviously you can swap those out. In fact, I did on one of them. I'm going to be looking at how easy or fiddly they are to set up, how much space they take up, that sort of thing. So this is purely just about the boxes. When I say travel palettes, I'm not just talking about ones that you might take on a long plane journey. I mean palettes that are designed to be used out and about, maybe just for a day's sketching on location. Not all of these have water bottles or cups built in, but they're easy to carry and convenient to use for painting when you're not at home. And these are obviously only my opinions, and what works for me might not work for you and vice versa, but it might give you an idea of what to look out for. So let's get stuck in with one of the most basic options. One of the most basic options is probably just a standard metal tin. They're widely available, very affordable, and you can get them with paints included or as empty tins to fill with your own paints. If they do come with paints, they're often in sets of 12, but you can usually remove the separators and fit quite a few more in, like I've done here. A couple of things that you might want to look out for are how many mixing wells there are on the lid. Most have 2 or 3. And also whether there's any writing inside the lid. This one, for example, has the brand name Schminker printed inside. It doesn't really bother me, but I know some people find it a bit annoying when you're trying to judge your mixers, so something to bear in mind perhaps. Being metal, obviously they're magnetic, which is really useful if you've got something like a travel easel or a sketching board, and they'll sit nice and securely on there. Or you can use magnetic clips to attach them to your sketchbook. Most of them also have a thumb ring underneath, so you can just hold it with that if you prefer. So overall, it's not fancy, but it works. They're easy and inexpensive to get, with or without paints. Magnetic, which is handy for boards, easels and clips. Decent mixing space, and you can fit more than 12 half pans usually. The cons, there's no built-in water container, it's just the paint and maybe a small brush. There are also plastic versions of these. Some of the Winsor Newton ones, for example, have 3 large mixing wells. And the Cotman sets are very affordable, and the paints, they're perfectly fine for student grade. And once you've used them up, you can swap them out for better quality paints in your own choice of colours. They're not magnetic, of course, but you could always add a bit of magnetic tape underneath if you wanted to fix them to a board. The next step up from a basic metal tin might be something that has its own water flask. This one's made by Schminker. It's designed a bit like a whiskey hip flask, with the water stored in an integral flask section. The lid from the main pallet clips on and becomes your water cup. I did have a bit of an issue with mine. That cup section didn't fit securely and just kept falling off in my bag, which put me off using it, quite frankly. However, when I mentioned this in a previous video, someone kindly suggested lining the inside of the cup with a bit of silicone. I tried that, and as you can see, it's made quite a bit of difference and it fits a bit more securely now. That said, these aren't cheap, so it's a little bit annoying to have to do that in the first place, and judging by stuff I've seen online, I'm not the only one who's had this issue. There is also a brand called Whiskey Painters who make similar flask-style palettes, and I have heard that they're better made, but I haven't tried one myself, so I can't confirm that. But if you're planning to use your own paints anyway, rather than buying the Schminker set, that could be another option worth looking into. Next we have the Portable Painter Micro. This is a really clever little design and it feels really well made. It holds 6 half pans and comprises a water cup and 2 mixing areas, and packs up really small, as you can see. You can clip the flatter mixing area under your pages if you want to secure it to your sketchbook rather than hold it with a thumb ring or between your fingers. I've had this for a while now but never taken it out and used it on a sketch, so I'm going to go and do that now. As usual, it's really windy here by the sea, but I've found a little sheltered spot and there's a little cafe up there, sort of on the edge of the cliff, and there's quite a few benches in this bit, so I'm going to have a go at painting that. It's not the prettiest building in the world, but it's just something. I did my sketch using a Sailor Feuille de Manon fountain pen with platinum carbon water-resistant ink on a Sea White of Brighton A5 watercolour travel journal. As usual, I'll put links to the materials I'm using in the description. that's the ink work done. Let's try out this little travel palette. I've got the standard version with 6 half pans, but since I bought mine, which like I said was quite a while ago, they now supply tiny quarter pans so you can have more choice of colour on hand. And that would probably have helped me, as you'll see as the video goes on. You can actually put this bit underneath and then clip it here to your page. But as I'm sitting down quite comfortably, I think I'm just going to put it over here, which means I've then got this area as another mixing area. So I'm going to start off with that alizarin crimson, and I'm just going to give it a really light wash with quite a lot of water. Yeah, I mean that's much brighter pink than this actually is, but who cares? These are the colours I chose for its first outing, and I have to say I didn't perhaps make the best choice. I'm not used to working with such a limited palette, so I'd need to be a bit more selective in future. I'm a bit lazy when it comes to shadows and usually just use some Payne's Grey with maybe a touch of extra blue added. I didn't include Payne's Grey in my selection, and you can see that when I mix my shadow colour it's all really far too purple. So in future I'd probably either invest in the extra little pans so I could take more colours with me, or just be more careful with my colour choice, and I'd replace either the orange or the blue with maybe a Payne's Grey that I'm used to, or a burnt sienna so I could use it with alizarin crimson and French ultramarine to get a better grey of my own. So I think the verdict on that one is that the portable painter's great. Would it take the place of my normal Winsor Newton pocket field box? I think the answer is no. It's great if you've only got a tiny amount of space, but would I really be that tight on space that I couldn't fit in the slightly larger Winsor Newton? Of course, if you're taking it travelling on a plane, for example, and space really is limited, then the micro might make all the difference. But I'm just talking about in the context of going out urban sketching for the day. But honestly, I really liked it. And if you want something that does just fit in a pocket, then this would be a really good choice, I think. So the pros for this one, it's tiny, it would fit in a pocket, it can clip neatly onto your sketchbook and not get in the way, and it feels very well thought out and well made. The cons, only 6 half pans unless you go for the tiny ones that they do supply, and it is more fiddly to set up than something like the Winsor & Newton field box. The thing for me was, if I'm already carrying a bag with a water bottle, would there ever really be a situation where I could take this but not something slightly bigger? Editing Emma here, of course you could take a water brush. And while we're on the subject of Winsor & Newton, I've got a couple of their palettes here. I've just seen these at half price on Amazon, and I thought at £23 I'd give one a go. It's the Winsor & Newton Field Travel Set. If you've watched any of my other videos, you might know that I often use this one. It's my favourite go-to palette. It's the Winsor & Newton Pocket Field Box, or Field Pocket Set, as I often see them labelled now. You can see this one's pretty well used, but it's really convenient because it's got a little flask here that holds a small amount of water, but enough for a quick sketch. And if you leave it out, you've got an extra mixing area and its own little water cup. So you've got everything contained. I don't use this tiny brush. So when I saw this slightly larger version, I thought I'd give it a go. I'm not going to use the paints that come with it. It comes with a set of 12 half pan Cotman watercolours. The Cotman, I think, in my opinion, are very good value for money, but they are a student brand, so they're not as pigmented as artist or professional grade paints. So I'm going to put some different paints in. It holds 12, but I have seen someone on YouTube manage to fit more in, and that's what I'm hoping, because I'm hoping to put my Senneliers in that I've been taking out in a small metal palette, which is fine, but it doesn't give you as much mixing space. This, hopefully, will give me the extra mixing space. It's got a bigger water bottle. Just depends if we can fit in enough half pans, I guess. So let's unbox it. Okay, so it opens up, you've got your water bottle here, which then gives you, if you can see that, it's not very in focus, sorry, gives you thumb holes to actually hold it. And the ends of the water bottle come off and fix onto the sides. Bear with me, it's the first time I've opened it. And then we can pour our water into these. I've got 2 little water cups, another tiny pointless brush that I won't be using, but I'll leave it in there for brush emergencies. 2 more mixing trays that pull out like this. And then these little sections pull out like that. And what I'm hoping I can put them straight in here rather than using these little trays, and that I'll be able to get more in there. Well, to cut a long story short, I tried and I couldn't. And I couldn't find the video on YouTube that showed someone else who did manage to fit in more half pans. So if anyone's got any tips on how to do that, please let me know in the comments. So I'm going to have to whittle down the paints that I use a little bit. Maybe use a bit more of a limited palette. And we know how good I am at that. Anyway, I filled it with 12 of my most used Sennelier pans and took it down to the waterfront to do a little sketch with some friends. As usual, I'm using a Sailor Fude de Manon 40-degree nib fountain pen filled with platinum carbon water-resistant ink on a Sea White of Brighton A5 travel journal. Overall, I found it was too bulky for little gain paint-wise, especially compared to the pocket field box. I'd rather make do with a smaller mixing area but have something less bulky. I find the size of the pocket field box is right for me, but if you prefer more mixing space and don't mind the extra bulk, then maybe this is worth investing in, especially if it's on offer, which it often seems to be at the moment, at least here in the UK. While we're comparing it with the pocket field box, it's worth mentioning that I've seen some people mention the fact that it doesn't sit completely flat, which they find annoying. Again, this doesn't bother me, but it's worth knowing if it's something you might find a hindrance. The next one I was actually going to include as part of a collaboration. I received one of these as a Christmas present. I was going to include it in a video anyway. So when out of the blue the company got in touch with me, I thought, well, why not? But then things transpired a little bit. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but at the end of the day, I want to have complete control over what goes out on my video content, obviously. Like anything, whether I bought it myself or it's been gifted to me, I'm going to be completely honest about what I think of it. Anyway, enough said, let's have a look at it. It's one of these tiny palettes that often comes in a kit, complete with the paint and a sketchbook. And this one also came with a clip and a sports wristband and a water brush. The 2 halves clip together magnetically, and then the bulldog clip attaches it to the top of your sketchbook. Obviously, there's only room for a tiny amount of paint and a very small mixing area. This one came with 12 watercolour tubes and 8 little wells for paint. And I filled it with my chosen paints, and while I'm not expecting it to be great quality, like I said earlier, I'm not reviewing the paint here. Because as with any of them, if you have tubes, you can fill them with whatever you like. There are lots of generic tiny palettes like this around at different price points and in varying levels of quality. They're a bit too small for me to use comfortably, but professional artists and well-known YouTubers use them very successfully and produce amazing results. And if something like this gets someone interested in painting on the go, well, that's definitely a good thing. That said, even though I'm not really reviewing the paints here, it's worth bearing in mind that while expensive materials won't guarantee to make you an amazing artist, very poor materials can just lead to poor results and frustration. And with some of the cheaper versions, the paints and paper included could easily put a beginner off. So if you're buying it as a gift for someone, it's probably worth doing a bit of research and reading some genuine reviews rather than just being swayed by lots of social media posts. And last of all, I've got this little palette. As you can see by its pristine condition, I haven't actually taken it out and used it yet. And to be honest, it's probably a bit too fiddly for me. It's got quite a few trays, and although you could leave one of them out and run it as just a 9 half-pan palette, which would definitely make it more usable, the pans themselves are also quite shallow, so I'm not entirely convinced how practical it would be in real use. But I've included it because it's a good example of the fact that there are loads and loads of different options out there. And it also shows that it's not just about size or how many pans you can fit in. It's got to be something you actually enjoy using as well. Otherwise, it's just going to put you off altogether. So hopefully some of the things I've talked about in this video, particularly around what feels easy to use and what adds a bit of friction, will help you decide what's going to work best for you. Thanks for watching and happy sketching.